All right, it is 12:02, so for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Can you see and hear me okay?
Yep, sure can.
Cool, awesome. Cool, so welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar with Landon Frye from Ambrook. My name is Kenna Bell. I am the Education and Outreach Coordinator for the Iowa Organic Association. I just wanted to share a few housekeeping things before we get started today. So first of all, I've enabled the Q&A feature for this webinar. So if you have any questions or comments during Landon's presentation today, please go ahead and type them in there. We'll be saving the last 10 or so minutes of the webinar so that I can read those out to Landon and he'll have a chance to answer those questions for you. Also, I am recording this webinar, and so I'll be posting it on our IOA YouTube page later today. So it'll be available there for continued viewing and sharing if you'd like. And then finally, I will be sending out that link to the YouTube video along with a short survey later today. So if you have any further questions or comments or feedback, I encourage you to fill that out. It's a super brief survey. It only takes a few minutes, and it's super helpful for us as we continue planning our education and outreach programming for the IOA. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quick. Let's see. All right. Is that showing up full screen for you?
We can still see the slides on the left, and it's not full screen.
Let's see if that works. Just a sec here.
Anna, this is Roz. If you go down to the bottom where it has the slider where you can make it bigger or smaller, that
Yeah.
very last icon next to the slider, if you hit that, it should go into presenter mode.
Oh, awesome.
Nope, nope, over to the right.
Oh,
all the way over to the right. There's like
right
one,
here.
yeah. It looks like a video screen. Nope. So no, I'll
Sorry.
go. Yep, there you
Oh,
go.
there we go. There we go. Thanks, Roz. All right, sweet. Sorry about that, guys. So before I give the floor to Landon today, I just wanted to give you all a little bit of background about what we do here at the Iowa Organic Association, for those of you that are maybe new here. So we are a nonprofit organization that was founded in 2006. We have a statewide presence, and our members are a diverse community of farmers, gardeners, food farm businesses, advocates, researchers, and consumers that champion organic production and products. Our mission is to advance and food systems in Iowa, and we hold values such as prioritizing ecosystem integrity, community and collaboration, and economic vitality. So our organization focuses on education and training. So of course, we're doing this winter webinar series. We also do college visits, field days, technical workshops, and we have many additional resources that we provide both online and in print. We're also available to provide technical support and resources across the state. So a big part of this right now is Transition to Organic Partnership Program, or TOP, which I'll explain a little bit more about in the next slide. We also conduct outreach, so we travel all across the state. I was just at PFI in Des Moines this weekend, which was really amazing. We also have social media, our website, e-news, and other online presence. So we have a variety of ways that we connect with Iowa's organic community, and I encourage you all to sign up for our e-news if you haven't already. We also communicate with our policy leaders about organic and the benefits of supporting and providing policies and other resources for the organic community. And then, of course, growing the organic community in Iowa to provide support for each other and help grow this overall movement in the state today. So as I mentioned before, a big part of our technical support and outreach programming has been made possible through our partnership with TOP. So we're really grateful for that because it allows us to provide even more resources to the organic community. We're especially excited about our new organic farm advisor, Susanna, who is leading our organic mentorship program and will also be involved with some of the field days, technical workshops, and other outreach events. We actually had a webinar about TOP last Wednesday, so definitely check that out on YouTube if you missed it. And if you're interested in being a mentor or mentee, definitely reach out to Susanna and she can talk to you more about that. I also wanted to make sure here to mention the NRCS Organic Management Standard 823. This provides conservation contracts for producers in transition and for those that are already certified. So you can apply for this at your county NRCS office. And transitioning producers have a deadline of March 1st for applications, and certified organic producers have a deadline of April 5th for applications. And I wanted to mention this because the deadline for that one has just been extended from March 22nd. So payments for this range from $200 an acre for simple row crop operations to $1,500 an acre. And we have a bunch more information of that on our IOA website. So if you need additional assistance with the OMS 823 application or the organic mentorship program, please contact me or Susanna. We're super happy to help connect you with those resources. And then I've listed our contact information here as well as our website. Let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen. Perfect, sweet. So that's just a brief overview about what we do here at the IOA. I really want to save the majority of the hour today on Landon Frye from Ambrook. So please type any questions or comments you have during the presentation in that Q&A box, and I'll make sure to share them at the end of the webinar today. So Landon Frye from Ambrook is going to share some really useful information today about his financial software. It was created specifically for farmers, and it helps streamline financial record keeping. So today, Landon's going to talk specifically about enterprise accounting and a little bit about grants. And then he's going to do a brief demo of his software as well. So thank you all again for being with us today. And without further ado, I'm going to make Landon the host.
All right. Thank you very much. Great to be here today. Glad to talk with you all and share some highlights, tips, just reminders on good bookkeeping and accounting practices and how those can apply to your farm and how we've worked with them in building brand new cloud mobile first farm accounting software. So let me share my screen here. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep, that looks good.
Looks like it. Great. So our agenda for today, let's go with that. Introduction, go through some best practices. Our team does work on understanding the grant market and has that as our priority. So we'll share thoughts there, do a demo, and then open it up for Q&A. A little bit more about myself. So I sit in Illinois. The family farms in central Illinois have grown corn, soybeans, food grade popcorn for several generations. I went to the U of I, was an ag econ major, spent several years with the Farm Credit System as a loan officer. And then a majority of my time was at Granular and then Corteva, working on the farm management software there, as well as the AcreValue platform, which was land analytics. I joined the Ambrook team about 18 months ago. We as a company, we're started 3 years ago. The co-founders are all technologists who had worked on a couple startups right off the bat out of college and went their own ways and kind of vowed and strived to get back together and build a product and a company themselves. Uh, one of the co-founders, his grandpa farmed, another one, their parents worked for the USDA for their entire careers. So they were really spun up on, what goes on in the ag market. And their first kind of beta idea was to bring and build all of the grants that both the USDA, FSA, NRCS offer, many of the large nonprofit and state level organizations, and aggregate all that into one database, which I will talk about. And from that, they worked with several thousand farms who were interested. They helped them kind of apply for grants, and just in that, they noticed the one thing often lacking that needed improved upon was the financial statements, as it particularly related to the financial profitability of usually the particular enterprise that the grant applied to. And with farms, there's never just one thing going on. There's multiple crops. There might be crops and livestock. There's trucking. And with all of those 3, 4, 5, 6 things that roll up into typically one Schedule F, typically one partnership, general entity, just a huge need in the tooling to track all of the enterprises. And so they set out to build brand new accounting software with that foundational concept in mind first, to make it easy to do that. So we'll talk more about that. And I've joined the team right as they got the product done and started working with farms, which we have basically onboarded almost 50 farms in our first year out of the gate in 2023, and are looking to probably increase that several fold here in 24. So let's get into it. Why do any record keeping at all? The first, gotta stay in compliance with the government and get the taxes done. That is the main driver of sitting down in the office in December, January, February to get the books in line so that we can produce Schedule F and our personal and business tax returns. Often that is as far as it gets. Usually the best analysis, even for farms that pay for additional breakdowns of their crop profitability, whether they use the farm business management system. I think Iowa has a pretty strong one there of extension folks who do record keeping for farms. That is still often, those are great reports, but it is a look back of decisions that were made 12, 18, 24 months prior. And it's hard to see more real-time analysis of profitabilities between, the options that farms can invest at the margin between crops and businesses. And so being able to know the business numbers, to track enterprises, to see profitability in real time is often takes a back seat and isn't always easy to do in the right accounting software. It typically requires an acumen and an upkeep of spreadsheets and other sources, which we're a fan of spreadsheets. We lean into them. We'll show you some examples there. When we say enterprise accounting, just starting at the top, there's cash accounting, accrual accounting, enterprise accounting. What we mean by enterprise is the ability to look at a profit and loss statement and understand the margins of the indirect and the direct costs and expenses to different lines of the business. So these will typically, again, break out into maybe row crops, the organic crop, any custom hire that, the machine costs and perhaps your time are spread out onto other areas can convolute what's my actual income from just operating this land separate from me, gaining margin out of using the equipment to help the neighbor and getting revenue there. We want to split that out to understand what is making us money. So that is typically the lines that we are drawing for enterprise. And the payoff looks like this. We've got 3 examples of a farm here. It is you're able to do it in a spreadsheet. You can keep track of it there. Again, we've got our income statement. We're showing the total business on the left, and then we have enterprises, corn, veggies, cattle, and then an overhead account. Kept the numbers really plain and simple here, but we can see, especially on the cost of goods sold, the top line, I imagine most farms can, acres times yield times price, and probably do that calculation once a day to understand where's the top line going to end up. But as things fall through, especially with the cost of goods sold, what is applicable to each of these, and then the really great stuff, what's our profit margins and net income, and perhaps if we invested, the next dollar in our cattle, that's going to yield more dollars than invested in corn or veggies in this case. And so things like that are really good to know as decisions on equipment purchases or growth opportunities for new acres, or expanding the products that are making money across more acres, or investment in livestock is important. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about enterprise counting. The principles of managing this are important. I will share 6 here that we've seen as we typically will walk through and have services and onboarding to help farms move from QuickBooks or spreadsheets or maybe an incumbent older desktop software onto Ambrook. And so everybody does want to get this second layer of analysis with enterprise to understand that. And these are the top 6 things that we're typically refreshing and helping them organize just a little bit better in order to do that. And the first one, by and large, that we hear the most is organizing the chart of accounts, the allocations, the categories of where everything goes, and making sure you understand it. It's in your own terms and not too ambiguous financial or accounting terminology, and where it needs to be, there's at least some help to map that to the right place on Schedule F, and you can line up the boxes. And so those are a couple of things I'll show in our demo account. But being able to allocate everything to the right spot and not miscategorize allows for, at the end, when you do review your own profitability and financial statement, to know why an expense or an income is where it is. I would imagine if you're working with a farm accountant, an extension advisor, this probably isn't as much of a pain point or an improvement. Where we really see this being more of a problem is farms that may be working with a more generic CPA who kind of inputs all of the information the same way another small business would, or and aren't able to get farm specific enough. And so we really recommend that farm specificity for the chart of accounts. And if your CPA is able to transform that into taxes, they're able to from Ambrook, but having the right farm categories here makes a really big difference for your own understanding of your books. Second biggest concept for enterprise accounting is understanding the line between basically an overhead, indirect cost, and those direct expenses to that enterprise. And so you can see from the three examples, chicken feed would obviously be 100% applied towards the chicken enterprise. The mortgage payment, probably depending on the land or the building, whatever it was primarily financed for. Regardless if the enterprise changes, you're still going to have that. And so spreading it as an overhead across the business is likely the best place for it. Cattle, a specific rent for an enterprise would likely go with it as well. But there can be creativity with these. The nature of enterprise allocation is mostly for you as the farm, and dividing up the expense to the right spot the way you think and see it is the most important part. If that mortgage payment is not going away, even if you want to understand its total use for the cattle operation or whatnot, it can be applied there. And as an enterprise allocation wouldn't affect the proper categorizing of the chart of account for taxes and the holistic entity analysis and financials. Got to use other categories sparingly. If you even put, margins are slim in agriculture, profits 2, 3, 5, 8%. Even if you even put 5% of your expenses in other without delineating exactly where they are or why you have them, you perhaps lose all of the ability to understand where your margins are. And so being able to just add another account, add another category, pull something into your chart of accounts to put it in the right spot and be specific about it so you can understand your business. Really important. For recording the transaction the moment it occurs, you can picture this in, my family farm, so many farms, the farm office is in the barn or on the other side of the house or in the basement, and the mail and bills stack up, receipts are put in a shoebox, and maybe every day, maybe once a week, maybe once a month, you go through that and you just need to get it cleared off. There's better, more important things to do out in the field. And some of the nuance, the detail, the specificity of where it should go gets lost. So being able to stay on top of the books, to record things to the right spot, as close to the moment that they occur, is actually just kind of seems obvious, but it is a pretty big step in getting the books to the right spot. Internal transfers. This is a way to move the value of product or time or value creation between entities or enterprises without maybe a cash movement. So the easiest example would be the product of using silage from the row crop business and delivering that value and product over to the dairy business. And what you can understand there is what's the trade-off and the opportunity cost. Could we have sold that corn on the open market and bought silage somewhere else? And being able to easily do the bookkeeping for that can sometimes be complicated, but building in just an easy understanding of that value movement between enterprises or entities is a really important step to not let the books get out of hand. And I think the example here is if there is a lot of complication or value movement, many farms feel like the need to pay for more bookkeeping services to clean it up or to help out. We kind of think sometimes the problem is just it's hard to understand how to do these steps and clicks as a workflow within a technology and still maintain the right accuracy for the books, and have simplified some of that. And then finally, keeping entities separate. Enterprise doesn't exactly correlate to a new entity, but sometimes it does. And perhaps your farm that set up a a different LLC or entity for each thing that is going on in the farm. If that is the case, being able to just manage all of those different financial statements, perhaps having completely separate chart of accounts, makes for bookkeeping to be much more complex to produce all those statements. And so being able to pull reports out to easily manage all of this from one system is important for your time as well. Just some other additional thoughts on why is enterprise accounting hard to do. So we'll give two examples. QuickBooks does have the ability to do this, to separate out different business lines. It is called their class system. We have found, at least from customers who come to us, they've tried that, worked with it, and things have gotten out of hand and, gotten confused by it, needed to hire someone to clean it up or keep maintaining it. And so that is possible if you're on QuickBooks and want to just understand more about that, or you're looking for how to set up classes within your account. Another segment of our customers, run a QuickBooks or desktop software, and then for enterprise accounting, for their really, you could call it pro forma business analysis, they've got spreadsheets built up and pull stuff out of QuickBooks, sort it, update their enterprise profitabilities in spreadsheets, and that works too. What can be hard about it, it's hard to hand off to someone else. Perhaps depending on the complexity of the formulas, it's hard for other people to update or understand. And what a software like ours kind of is designed to do is to be that system to attribute and allocate, still allow for everything to be pulled out to a spreadsheet, but really easily, being able to be the system and let the analytics kind of have more of a one-time update without needing to build a lot of processes in a spreadsheet, which is where things can be more complex. And that gets us back to the end result. If we do those things, can understand where to put stuff on our chart of accounts, to do it in a timely manner. So it's accurate, helps to produce these P&Ls more than once a year, looking back at really old decisions we may not even remember. But to honestly see this on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis just really helps you feel confident that you are in the right spot for staying on top of the finances of the farm. So that is enterprise accounting. We'll show some examples in the software here, but do want to take a nod to grants and funding and talk about our work on that side of the business. Big picture, there is seemingly just many more opportunities for grants out there. One example would be the climate smart commodities and the $3 billion and 140 initiatives that are going across all commodity groups. We've read and studied that, it seems like just about any and every farm could be applicable and be a part of probably one or a handful of programs, just depending on the state and the nature. Certainly you can't double up on a few of the ways that they're measuring sustainability, but that funding, along with other programs, is really a growing opportunity for farms, and especially organic farms with a mindfulness to more advanced conservation practices, value-added product. And so there's a few ways into that. I'm not going to go through every program or detail, but would just encourage you to give it a Google, put it on your list to research if it is something to look into. Sometimes it's a yeah, I would say, and the nature of it, conservation, energy. There's a lot of grants for solar or more sustainable buildings. I know a few farms who have been able to construct buildings for cattle facilities on top of them. The value added producer grant is applicable to organic farms as well, and that ranges from 50 to 250,000. Many of them do require a lot of writing. That's probably one of the barriers to it. Can often end up as almost a PhD thesis on everything that your farm is and what its business plan and goals are, and does take a decent amount of writing and really good reports, both historical, current, and then maintaining and updating receipts, reimbursement capture, and kind of sharing the fruit of the nature of the investment that the grant goes towards your farm. So I mentioned a couple here, REAP and value added producer grant. A place to start among several options would be our funding library, where we've got somewhere between 700 and 800 programs. It is free for the price of your email to log in, and can just see what's applicable in Iowa. It is by state. We probably ask, what products are you growing? And then it's an intro and shares a little bit about each of these. If you don't know anything about any of them, you can at least get a starter on what's going on with them. We try to keep the appropriate contacts, the actual web pages, and the source of the grant up to date. But it's kind of a launching point into, spending 10 or 15 minutes to understand the landscape and the market. Yeah, drafting, applying, as I mentioned, can vary quite a lot. Have heard that, some are dozens or perhaps a couple hundred pages, the ones that do end up winning. So it can be a sizable time commitment. There are a plethora of grant writers out there, professionals and experts who kind of do this as part-time work or for a day job, and would be happy to put you in touch with someone if that is of interest. One thing that we are working on with Ambrook, we do have, we think, great information on the financials of our farmer customers. And our software team is also working with and skilled at and understanding all the possibilities that are coming out with AI. And so especially for, in this case study of us working with a farm and customer in Vermont, a bread and butter farm, they had done this grant before. So they had an application with all of the appropriate language. They had been on our software for a couple years. I think we had 2 years of historical data. And so we spent a couple hours with them using AI to, go back through their prior applications, the information we had about their farm, and within a few hours help them reapply for what is the SEEP grant. And that was something they had put off. I think it was like due the next day, and they're like, can you help at all? And so we built some processes, some tools, got it turned around for them in a couple of hours, and they wouldn't have re-upped and applied for it at all without our help. So it is something that we're looking into as like a product to be able to summarize and analyze. And with so much good information in your accounting system, there are ways to utilize that info to create narrative out of numbers and be able to leverage some of these new technologies for funding on your farm, which really strikes at the core of kind of what we believe at Ambrook to enable farms to be good businesses and to take advantage of all of the new stuff coming to the market, whether it be in the climate smart commodity grants or many other ways to get additional funding outside of the sale of the actual crops or products. So an example of a case study there. All right, so part 3, let's jump in and look at a demo of Ambrook and just give you a sense of what we have going on. You can think of Ambrook in 3 parts. It's an accounting and bookkeeping software platform. Second, it is a payments platform. Can easily pay your bills, send money a few different ways. You can also send invoices and receive money digitally. So you can kind of be able to be a business and move money without solely leaning on a lot of paper checks, perhaps. But if you love paper checks, you can also keep paper checks. That's okay too. And then part 3, document storage and being able to digitize every step of what you have going on for the finances. Really, that is taking a picture of every receipt, every co-op invoice, being able to pull the text, the units, the quantities off of that, and automatically having it file in without needing to sit at the farm computer all day and just hand key stuff from one paper to your accounting system. We reduce much of that time. And so the way that works, we'll jump into it and look at it. This is the homepage, starts on the general ledger. And what we do is we can integrate and pull in all the transaction data from your business banking account for each entity. The operating line, business credit cards are all going to flow in here automatically. They'll update once a day, and that could be the heartbeat and the automation of your farm accounting system. So if I look at an example here, tractor supply, an equipment spend, a parts run, service update to a piece of machinery. What we'll first have is our category. So this would be our chart of accounts. When we got on Ambrook, uploaded, all the ones we typically have. I did an alpha search here, typed in the word, can see I do want a capital expenditure for equipment. For most of these, we can see an example will map and can map to the appropriate box, Schedule F, Schedule C, Schedule E, so you can get that to the right spot. If you need to pull forward from a larger list of a chart of account, we've got several hundred in the background that you can add to your own books if need be. So we can tag that simple button to the right spot on the radio dial and then move into that enterprise. And so this is where we're going to split that equipment cost the way that we think about it, the way that we want to allocate it in our head. So this could be, we have an overhead account, maybe that's 100% overhead. Maybe this tractor or our expense solely works on our livestock business and we want to allocate it there. If you even are like, well, we ran this tractor, it mostly did work on our livestock, but it does do a little bit of work. And I want to apply it to our row crop as well. So we can split that 70-30. As I keep adding, we can adjust these percentages and incrementally take any expense and move it across multiple enterprises. And so that's really helpful to, some things are easy, some things are perhaps this is 100% that business. That of course gets us an extra layer, but there's also things at the margin that it's one bill and we want to divide it out to the right spot. This $13,000 expense that I had, maybe it was for very specific things and I need exactly 1,000 allocated here, exactly 10,000 and exactly 2,300. So I can back up a step. I can create 3 line items and then go forward and allocate those 3 100% to the right spot. Second would be entity. We can keep track of multiple entities from one ledger, can always produce the appropriate financial report for the same entity, and be able to keep them in separate buckets as we do our bookkeeping. A couple ways to do that. We have another view. You can easily log out of this and into another Ambrook account if you really want to keep them separate, just kind of depending on how your CPA or attorney wants to make sure the books are cleared to not pierce the veil. We have farms that do it both ways with the entity tracker here, or multiple different accounts if that is of interest. And then finally, the last tag would be our funding and grant tag. And so this is still separate than the enterprise. This might be a specific project we got funding for that we need to easily pull a report of every transaction, of every receipt we took a picture of, the time that it happened, and I'm going to tag that at this juncture, and we'll be able to report on it separate from the first three. So that is what we want to do with everything flowing in. This does 100% work on your phone or iPad the exact same way it would on a desktop. The emotional value there is one of the things that I hear from a lot of our customers 2 or 3 months in, is like, it's the end of the day, I kind of gravitate more to my couch than the computer in the farm office, and I can pull up and spend 5 minutes checking things off. You can see, I mean, these are radio buttons. It's click. You can do it with your finger, and 5 minutes a night actually keeps me up to date rather than a whole day a month. And just that trade-off of time, still probably perhaps the same time if you're keeping things to a detailed manner, but spreading it out and having quick access to it gives a lot of peace of mind. So I'll skip to the end and just show the fruits of what this produces on our reports, that we can see 3 different ways. Was sitting for a second. I'll look at last year for a little bit better data, but the cloud software version, just looking at total income, total expenses. What is pretty cool is usually when we onboard a new farm, in the first 5 minutes, we set up their account, hook up all their farm business accounts, and you can come right to this page and we'll analyze every transaction over the last 2 years and just can see, the total big picture. How much money did we make on a cash basis both years? And then from there, we start you can tag back through historicals, start organizing everything. One thing I did not mention, there's automations for every single one of those transactions. So usually we'll have farms with dozens or hundreds of automations. So they're seeing transactions come in, they're pre-tagged, and may just need kind of a review or an editing if something about the nature of the category or enterprise needs adjusted. We can see historic, and if you really stay on top of your accounts receivable or payable, we'll be able to see future cash flows. We're not going to sell the crop until December. It's worth this much. Our loan payments are here, and here. We've got cash rent. You can kind of build all of those and then understand when are we going to need to call the bank to make sure the operating line can be pulled from. So that's another helpful thing. And then we're able to see profitability of our transactions, or the profitability of each enterprise, excuse me. Can look at, this would be your corn, your soy, trucking, custom hire, and just total in and total out for whatever time frame that I've denoted up here. And if I want to dig in and look at them, I can jump to all those transactions. And then finally, looking at the detailed income and expense categories. So that's one way we can look at analytics. We can move to our report view here and see this laid out more as a classic balance sheet or profit and loss statement by year, by accrual, by entity. And if we click into these, would be able to drill down further. These can be printed out and are really clean as well. And then a slightly different version, but we allow for and help you get everything out to a really clean CSV or spreadsheet as well. They're pre-formatted, so you don't have to spend time kind of organizing all the cells and adding up totals for certain categories, just depending on what you want to export. We can get it out and you can work with the data in a more manual way as well. And then Ambrook as a payments platform, we have a couple things going on. This is like think of it like our own Ambrook branded. It's a digital Venmo account built on top of Stripe. It has a Visa card that pulls money from the account. You can kind of think of this as a digital petty cash account. As soon as you swipe with the Ambrook card at the gas station or filling up fuel or buying supplies, we're going to send an alert on your phone. And that's just really reminding you, prompting you, take a picture of the receipt, get the digital copy immediately before it, gets lost. We'll be able to read all those line items. You can tag it later. But kind of a really way to just keep all the card spend tight to the bookkeeping software. You could give one to every member of the family, and it acts as the farm card for the farm, and then can see all the transactions. Invoicing and billing, so you're able to produce invoices, keep track of your customers or vendors, their addresses, their email, their phone number can be saved in here. If you do have any sort of direct deposit, ACH information, that can be saved here as well. When you go to create an invoice, we can have pre-loaded products and price points per unit. If you have any sort of things you find you're always typing, you can, of course, just write in what it is, quantity. This could be custom hire, the price, and then do the bookkeeping ahead of time. And then what this will produce when you hit send online, this will send an email that is a professional invoice via Stripe to that customer. They could then open it up and pay digitally. If they pay by ACH, they would just write in bank account routing number like they're paying an electric bill or a utility bill. You could let them pay by credit card. That would incur a fee here. You could uncheck that and not let them pay by credit card. So that'll produce a professional invoice. We can put your logo on it. And then we'll keep track of the bookkeeping. If you wanted to download this as a PDF and then email it yourself as an attachment, you're able to do that as well. When they do, and they can pay by check, when that does hit your bank account, what you'll be able to do is then match the invoice to the transaction in the bank account, simply kind of by reviewing all your outstanding invoices, saying, it matches up to this transaction, and that'll close it out. Same thing with bill pay. In reverse, we've got remote check printing, so you can write up the check you want to send, hit send, we'll print it off from a third-party service and get it to their door in 5 days. If you do like printing checks and are used to putting in the check paper and typing it out and bookkeeping from the accounting software, that is set up within Ambrook as well. And you're still able to do check printing at home, and the same keystrokes will apply to the check as logging the books. Looking at the time, I will wrap it up there. Yeah, we'll end with that one kind of logging in and out of entities, new accounts. You're able to switch organizations if you want to have that level of uniqueness. and kind of layer between entities there. You can give different login levels to different people. You could have your accountant be able to log in and see certain things without changing some admin profiles or paying any bills. Thank you for the opportunity and time. We'll take questions. Happy to follow up one-on-one as well. Just a little snapshot on the main question, probably. How much does it cost? $100 a month. At this very moment, we really handhold you through changing systems. We're going to do 2 or 3 onboarding free calls, review that chart of accounts. And we are not charging for any of that for at least the next few months, probably through planting. So something to think about there. Ongoing fees, everything you saw is $100 a month. You know, that one additional charge, if you had people pay by credit card, that's listed out there. That's an additional transactional fee, but nothing else. You can go to the funding library. We don't charge for that. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Landon. I know I just learned a lot today about Ambrook, so that was really awesome, and I really appreciate you being with us today. So I've got one question in the Q&A so far, and I encourage others to type in any questions or comments during these last few minutes. But Ted is asking, what about payroll? I'm not yeah.
Yeah, so we are, we call it kind of just say bring your own payroll. Whatever you're doing with payroll today, you would continue to do. Where that affects enterprise accounting, when that payroll transaction hits the journal, hits the general ledger, excuse me, you know, that's going to have FICA taxes, might be towards specific people. Maybe you've got a person who's just a trucker or a person who works on this business. So for that first time we do a payroll entry, we could make it fairly long, divide this person's time to this enterprise, etc. And then every time payroll hits, it would divide that out and really help track the value of time to our businesses. That part we think we're really good at. But yeah, you would keep doing whatever you're doing for payroll.
That makes sense. Thank you. And everyone, feel free to ask follow-up questions if you'd like as well. Our next question is from Kim. She's asking if you are currently working with organic farms.
Yeah, we have a fairly diverse array of customers, cow-calf operations in the West, commercial vegetable farms that are organic, both in Pennsylvania, Vermont, California, farms that are more probably market garden would be an apt description of them. Their primary revenue comes from sales of products online through CSAs and farmers markets. Some dairies that are organic as well. I think you could see just the nature of the way we set up enterprises. Those enterprises could be really almost anything applicable to making those splits. The ag specificity comes in just all the preloaded chart of accounts we have that are agriculture related to the Schedule F, many of the units and the product listings, and yeah, being able to have the kind of the grant tracking in there. So
that makes sense. Yeah, I wasn't aware of the funding library specifically with tracking funding opportunities and grants for producers. So that's really cool. I have a follow-up question on Kim's question. What are some of the common comments that you get from organic farmers specifically about how Ambrook is helpful to them?
yeah, I'll add in one thing I have to download to show, but on the grants, being able, there's a spreadsheet you can download, and if you are taking photos of everything, basically we'll show all the transactions, we'll create a link to each photo, and then it's pretty easy to get like a reimbursement record report from there. And so that, not that all organic farms have grants, but that's takes away the pain of some of those processes.
Definitely.
For grants.
Yeah. I'm seeing a couple comments here. So this may have been a follow-up on my question or an answer, but someone said useful for organic cost share of fees.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah, whether that's between entities, one thing, if many row crop operations do have crop shares, maybe between a landlord or a cousin, and sometimes row crop farms have all their agreements are cost share. So you could put all of those landlords as entities, and then for anything related to their farm, when you log that invoice bill, seed chem for you can do that 50-50, 60-40, whatever the crop share would be on that entity step. And then I'm just going off kind of how our farm would work. My dad floats everything, and at the end of the year kind of settles up, produces an invoice for everyone. You owe me for this, here's what you've sold your grain to. And so that would make for a nice easy end of year report with all those shares broken out. Could translate that to an invoice, create a super professional invoice, rather than so many I've seen are like open up a blank Word document, go back through the farm book, kind of handwriting out every expense line item. And a couple steps we have here would do both of those steps quite a bit more. Yep.
Awesome. This is related, and I think we have time for this one last question here. But they're asking for things like bill pay and invoicing, can it integrate easily with your current credit card merchant? There are a lot of options out there, including Square. Just curious which ones Ambrook can integrate with. I know you mentioned Stripe.
Yeah, many of our, especially market garden farms, are on Square. Anybody that's selling products directly, there's a few other options. So many are on Square. We will pull in that Square, when the deposit hits from Square. We've scoped further integrations. One example would be a market garden that sells 60 products at a farmer's market for a whole summer. If they have a question, what was the average amount of the number of tomatoes people bought? If the person running the Square card is writing that down, often they're perhaps not. That's going to be a Square question. How many tomatoes did we sell? Square is going to have all that inventory data. What we want to get to, what we want to have an Ambrook split out is, here are my enterprises, how much of any revenue allocated on Square goes to each enterprise. So there is Square on some aspects has more of the inventory data, and we are working on summarizing more of that down to effectively allocating to enterprise, but it does integrate in.
Got it. Thank you. And I'm going to ask this one last question because I'm curious about it too. Seneca is asking, do you see people leaving QuickBooks with the use of your software? We have many years of personal and farm accounting and QuickBooks with multiple entities. It will be hard to leave QuickBooks with so much data there. Do the two work together at all?
You wouldn't use both. So just a simple question. Yeah, our customers stop using QuickBooks and come on to Ambrook. You can go back a year or two. A lot of farms like, quarter over quarter, comparing years, historical financial statement. We can just depending on how it looks, we can pull that in to help get to those year over year looks. But effectively, you can print off statements, have all the QuickBooks data in whatever reports, can download it. You start using Ambrook, you have it here. So there's certainly a trade-off to move to a new system, but you should be able to keep, especially your statements and historicals from QuickBooks, and still have those.
Awesome. That makes sense. All right. Well, thank you so much, Landon. And thank you everyone for being here today. This is a really great webinar. So I will be, like I said, sending out that follow-up email with our survey and also posting this on YouTube. And I'll share both my contact information, Susanna's from the IOA, and Landon's as well. So please reach out to any of us if you have follow-ups.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.